The ticking of a wall clock can feel like gunfire. In an empty room, it pierces a certain kind of mind. The rest of the world sees stillness as an invitation to relax. But a specific group of people experience quiet differently. To them, silence feels like a sudden drop in cabin pressure. They sit quietly in modern office spaces. They look flawlessly composed in sharp corporate suits. They execute tasks with supernatural precision. They can walk into a dense boardroom and map everything. They instantly read the unvocalized power dynamics in the room. They notice the microscopic twitch of a manager's jaw. They spot the subtle defensive posture of a colleague. All of this happens before a single word is spoken. To the casual observer, this looks like executive presence. It looks like exceptional emotional intelligence or leadership. But the biological reality behind this mask is far more haunting. This clinical sharpness was not cultivated in peaceful classrooms. They did not learn it through reading self-help books. It is a highly advanced survival system. It was violently hammered into their nervous system by early adversity. This is the psychological reality of traumatic intelligence. It is a hidden form of advanced cognitive processing. Psychology is only recently beginning to fully articulate it. The core premise is deeply uncomfortable and revolutionary. Deep trauma does not only fracture the human psyche, it can also act as a brutal catalyst. It sharpens human perception to a razor edge. Consider a child raised in an environment that is volatile, an environment that is unpredictable or structurally unsafe. Their biological development undergoes a radical compromise. They lose the luxury of standard childhood ignorance. To survive the erratic shifts around them, they must adapt. Their brain must upgrade its internal operating system. It shifts into a terrifyingly high resolution. The amygdala acts as the body's smoke detector. In these children, it becomes hypersensitized. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex is forced into premature hyperdrive. It calculates risks and predicts behavioral outcomes constantly. It decodes complex emotional patterns just to feel safe. They become expert students of human nature not by choice. Failure to read the room could mean physical catastrophe. This early neurological conditioning manifests clearly in adulthood. It creates several distinct and often isolating psychological traits. The first major trait is a state of hyper-empathy. It operates almost completely independent of their conscious will. They do not merely notice when someone else is struggling. They viscerally absorb the unexpressed anxiety in a room. They feel the hidden anger around them. A colleague might casually insist that they are perfectly fine, but the traumatized mind has already registered the lie. It cross-references the vocal tone and the lack of eye contact. It tracks the microscopic shift in their breathing. This is not mystical intuition or magic. It is hyper-accelerated pattern recognition developed over years. They spent a childhood tracking the fluctuating states of caregivers. The brain became a hyper-vigilant radar out of necessity. Knowing what an authority figure was feeling was literal survival. The second major pillar of this architecture is uncanny calmness. They exhibit an almost disturbing peace when a crisis explodes. In modern workplace settings, things often fall apart. A sudden disaster can throw an entire team into panic. But the individual with traumatic intelligence undergoes a strange shift. While everyone else is drowning in adrenaline, they change. Their nervous system enters a state of cold strategy. They become hyper-focused and logical. They do not freeze in terror. Instead, they adapt seamlessly to the danger. Developmental psychologists refer to this as stress inoculation. Their early developmental years were characterized by constant unpredictability. Therefore, an adult crisis does not feel like an emergency. To their brain, it feels like their original home environment. They are perfectly calibrated to navigate high-stakes chaos. Chaos was simply their normal for a massive portion of life. However, this profound resilience requires massive internal energy. It is built on a foundation of severe internal exhaustion. The subconscious processing of environmental data never stops. Their mind is running a cognitive marathon during casual interactions. They are perpetually analyzing why people do what they do. They compulsively replay past conversations in their heads. They search for hidden agendas behind benign actions. They notice details that ordinary people do not even register. This creates a profound state of permanent hypervigilance. Social interaction becomes incredibly cognitively expensive for them. They are taking in vast amounts of raw data. They learn very early in life to internalize everything. They present a surface appearance of absolute detachment. They maintain a professional cool at all times. But underneath the surface, they are literally drowning in complex information. This architecture inevitably creates a highly developed sense of self-reliance. It is an almost militant independence. Individuals who carry this intelligence do not wait for rescue. They do not look for external validation or support. When a problem arises, they handle it quietly. They independently build solutions in the background. They assume from the very beginning that they are entirely alone. This extreme self-sufficiency looks like raw competence to others. Sometimes peers even mistake it for arrogance, but its developmental roots are deeply tragic. A child learns that the adults responsible for them are unreliable. They realize their caregivers are volatile or emotionally absent. The developing brain then internalizes a strict rule. It decides that depending on others is a lethal risk. Competence therefore becomes their primary armor in life. Independence becomes a non-negotiable defense mechanism against betrayal. The most agonizing paradox here is the relationship with rest. Traumatic intelligence has a toxic relationship with true stillness. For an ordinary mind, a quiet weekend is an invitation. The nervous system naturally relaxes and recharges. But for a mind forged in early adversity, stillness is terrifying. Slowing down feels inherently dangerous to their body. The moment the external noise fades, things change. The distractions disappear, and the hyper-alert brain turns inward. It deploys its massive analytical power against itself. It begins to scan the internal landscape for threats. It dissecting personal flaws and anticipates catastrophic scenarios. It tortures itself with ancient memories in the quiet. To this nervous system, letting down your guard means danger. It believes that relaxation is the exact moment you get hurt. Stillness is misread as a hidden trap. Peace is perceived as a terrifying illusion that invites disaster. Consequently, they remain trapped in a cycle of constant motion. They use work or overthinking as an artificial buffer. They must keep their own thoughts at bay. This continuous inner tension produces a severe form of self-doubt. It creates rampant imposter syndrome on a daily basis. They were conditioned to believe safety depended on flawless performance. Therefore, they hold their own output to a brutal standard. They chase an unattainable level of absolute perfection. Any slight gap in their real-world performance is dangerous. They do not see it as a normal human mistake. They view it as definitive proof of inadequacy. They live with a paralyzing awareness of complexity. They run simulations of every single way a project could fail. This happens before they even pick up a pen. This psychological trap frequently leads to chronic procrastination. Society looks at their hesitation and misjudges them. People label them as lazy or unmotivated. They are entirely blind to the actual structural reality. The paralysis is caused by caring far too much. They are trapped by the terrifying presence of high expectations. Furthermore, this intelligence carries a profound sense of isolation. It is a psychological weight known as stimulus poverty. Their minds operate at a very high level of resolution. Therefore, they struggle immensely to find real depth around them. They find no resonance or authenticity in immediate social circles. Casual office gossip leaves them feeling completely hollow. Superficial social interactions offer no comfort. They carry a quiet, lifelong longing for substantive conversation. They are searching for anyone who can follow a complex thread. They want to take a raw idea to its absolute bottom. They need someone who won't get uncomfortable or turn back. Because they rarely encounter this level of depth, they adapt. They learn to systematically mask their true cognitive capacity. They deliberately calibrate themselves down to fit into the room. They do not want to alienate others or appear elitist. A massive portion of their identity is completely omitted. They live as ghosts within their own successful lives. This internal division is compounded by radical cognitive flexibility. The average brain closely binds its identity to fixed beliefs. It reacts with immediate defensiveness when challenged. But the highly intelligent, traumatized mind operates differently. It treats personal beliefs merely as working theories. Their survival depended on accurately reading cold reality. They had to adapt to a changing environment to stay alive. Therefore, the brain seamlessly updates its model of reality. It changes instantly the moment verifiable new data appears. They do not experience changing their mind as a defeat. It is not a threat to their ego. They see it as a necessary and radically honest correction. It is simply the continuous pursuit of objective truth. Yet, unenlightened outside observers favor rigid dogmatism. To them, this continuous update process looks like weakness. It can easily be misread as inconsistency or lack of conviction. This brings us to the ultimate tragedy of this condition. Almost every single brilliant trait is systematically misunderstood. Modern society completely misreads these hard-won strengths. The individual who requires deep solitude is judged harshly. People label them as cold, aloof, or antisocial. The thinker whose hyperconnected brain cannot stop firing is dismissed. They are called merely neurotic or pathologically anxious. The person who viscerally feels structural injustice is cast aside. The one who carries the hidden suffering of others is rejected. Society views them as overly sensitive or fragile. The strategist who openly acknowledges complexity is seen as weak. Saying you do not know the answer looks like hesitation. Meanwhile, the unshakable overconfidence of lower ability is rewarded. Ignorance is routinely gifted with status and power. The psychological traits we explored today might feel familiar. They may provide an accurate map of your internal architecture. This description might give a clinical language to your secret pain. If you have carried this heavy weight in silence, listen closely. You must internalize a profound psychological truth today. You are not broken. You are not a social failure or a strange anomaly. You are not a collection of defects dressed as strengths. The extraordinary perceptiveness you carry is real. The profound empathy you extend is a genuine asset. The strategic calmness you exhibit under pressure is powerful. None of these traits are random accidents. They are the beautiful architecture of a resilient mind. You had to grow up far too quickly to survive. You adapted flawlessly to an environment that failed to protect you. Extensive research on post-traumatic growth proves something beautiful. Cognitive psychologists demonstrate that human consciousness is remarkable. It possesses a measurable capacity to be fundamentally transformed by hardship. You are not simply damaged by profound adversity. You paid an incredibly high biological and emotional price for this lens, but the high-definition view you possess is entirely yours now. The sharpness is real, but the original war is over. The environment around you has changed. The ultimate act of mental sovereignty is to stop running. Stop viewing your hypervigilance as a life sentence of anxiety. Recognize it as a massive source of clean wisdom. It is a tool that you now have the power to direct. You can look at the sophisticated intelligence you built. You can honor the dangerous path you walked early in life. Decide that this power no longer belongs to your past. It belongs entirely to you in the present moment. You have the right to speak to your own nervous system. Tell the hyper-alert defense systems in your chest to relax. The danger has passed and the environment is safe. The operating system can finally be used for your own dreams. You are no longer just defending against a threat. You are building a life of your own choosing. This channel is completely dedicated to unmasking these realities. We explore the hidden psychological forces that dictate our lives. We investigate cognitive psychology, human behavior, and mental health. If this analysis brought clarity to your journey, participate. Please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Let me know which specific trait resonated most deeply with you. I personally read and respond to every single response. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel today. Turn on notifications so you do not miss upcoming deep dives. We will continue to map the mechanics of the human mind. Thank you for your time and your presence here. I will see you in the next analysis.